The sad reality is this is not clickbait. The United States has constantly been on a decline when it comes to its security as remaining as the world power. There are three main things that are happening right now that are indicative of the fall of the US dollar as a dominant world currency. In general, there's an investor called Ray Dalio, and he had this book called The Changing World Order. It's a little bit biased because he's selling a Chinese fund to investors, but the basics are pretty much true. Countries have long-term debt cycles that indicate the rise and fall of their dominance, and there are also several parameters that you can track in a country to determine if it's going to rise or fall. And the United States clearly has reached a peak for an extended period of time, and people are cautious for other world powers. At the time of the recording, BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been working together, presumably on a new world currency. Saudi Arabia's leader said that they don't want to depend on the US dollar as much, and you have several countries that are rising up and making claims such as, we don't want to depend on the US dollar as much. BRICS is almost certainly creating an alternative to the US dollar. Because trade tensions have increased between the United States and other countries, people are seeing the relationships between the United States and other countries as more geopolitical, meaning it's zero-sum and more competitive, rather than it being economical. In other words, that's positive sum. In other words, beneficial to both parties. And this is due to a rise of nationalism, fear, concern, and getting revenge against the countries that beat us. And so this sentiment has been increasing in the United States, and because it's been increasing, you have less trade, and you have wars with Russia, Russia being taken off the SWIFT banking system and using an alternative banking system, yet they still need to continue doing trades with other countries. If you want to find out what's happening, follow the money in terms of trades between different countries. So because the trades between the BRICS countries has increased, there's been a growing need for them to have their own currency. That's number one. And if you look at the fundamental value of a currency, and let's look at the basics, Metcalfe's law is it. The value of the network increases in proportional to the square of the amount of participants. So in other words, the more people use something, the more valuable it becomes. So the more people use the US dollar, the more valuable it becomes. And because many countries are more incentivized to trade with other currencies outside of the US dollar, the more valuable those alternative currencies would become. Next, because of this debt cycle, the United States is in a serious amount of debts, and it keeps on either increasing this debt ceiling, because if it doesn't, it will default on its obligations, meaning that the value of the US currency will drop even more drastically. So two things could happen. The perceived value of the US dollar lowers as they keep on just extending the debt ceiling, or if they actually default on their debt, which I don't see why they would, because it's their choice whether to increase the debt ceiling or not, then the security of the US dollar would drop even further. Third, you have some people that even theorize that the fact that the United States is forcing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies to become securities, meaning that it will face more regulatory scrutiny, it'll be harder to exit the US dollar. So all these things combined indicate that the US dollar may be at a little more risk than usual. So what can you do about this if you're somebody who wants to make money, you want to raise capital, you want to buy businesses or buy real estate, and you want to make it in this world? It's really simple. Continue doing what you're doing. This wouldn't be something overnight, but the vast majority of my sources are saying that things are going to change drastically within the next 10 years. Two things I recommend. Number one, make sure that you don't only have a US citizenship. Make sure that you understand how to have citizenships in different countries, because you never know tomorrow. Number two, make sure you know how to do business internationally. There are many fantastic countries in the world to do business. Dubai, Portugal, and many other countries, including Estonia, have a lot of global citizenship type visas and business visas. So as you're working on either buying businesses or buying real estate, focus on obviously the places that you know the best, with also keeping an open mind, a more open mind to other. So that's the solution.